In a garage, Charlie was repairing the plane that his wife Sarah had gifted him on his birthday. Sarah interrupted him to tell him she was leaving soon for a business conference in London. She invited him to come along again, but Charlie turned her down because he had lots of work. Sometime later, Charlie arrived at the CIA headquarters. He went through all the security scanners that he invented, because apparently, when you're the guy who builds the scanners, you also get the perk of endless beeping privileges. Finally, he got to work. Suddenly, he received a message from Inkoline, a mysterious person he'd been in contact with for years. As usual, they had valuable classified intel to sell him. After lunch break, Charlie went back to his office and got a call from Sarah, who informed him that she'd already arrived in London. However, Charlie already knew because he'd been tracking her. They didn't talk much because nothing says romance like mutual surveillance, since Charlie was desperate to get back to the mysterious documents. These were top-secret government files revealing that a drone strike, disguised as a self-deletion bombing, was authorized and covered up. There were clips from the news reporting 150 casualties, including French Special Forces and Danish Marines. This whole operation was organized by Chief Moore, who was also Charlie's boss. You know things are bad when your boss's name sounds like it belongs in a Bond villain directory? That night at home, Charlie tried calling Sarah, but she didn't answer, so he left a voicemail. The next day, Charlie arrived at the office and was surprised to find Moore waiting for him. Moore took Charlie to the office of O'Brien. She explained that there'd been a terrorist attack at a hotel in London, and Sarah was one of the victims. Charlie refused to believe it and wanted to call Sarah, so Moore turned on the TV to show him the news. The reporter described how 4 terrorists burst into the hotel, took 4 hostages, and killed 2 of them. When Charlie went home, he found dozens of reporters waiting for interviews and the police trying to keep them back. The next day, Charlie confronted Moore and Supervisor Caleb because he was very suspicious of what happened. He couldn't believe the terrorists could have slipped past the thousands of security cameras in London. Not to mention they drove into traffic. Moore promised they were investigating, but Caleb sent him home. The following day, Charlie went to the airport to pick up Sarah's body and her belongings. At home, he looked inside the suitcase and found a gift Sarah had bought for him, which made him have a breakdown. Tired of being at home, Charlie went back to work and used the restricted computer to hack into the security cameras at the hotel and the nearby streets. He put together a timeline of the events and showed it to his superiors. Sarah was taken because she tried to help some of the attendants to escape. Charlie ran voice and facial analysis, so he managed to get the identities of the 4 terrorists. They were Mishka from Moscow, a former South African Special Forces operative called Lawrence, mercenary Horst, and former intelligence officer Gretchen. Noticing Caleb's and Moret's lack of reaction, Charlie realized they already knew all this. They told Charlie they were already working on it and sent him to see a therapist, because nothing says you're under suspicion like a mandatory therapy session. The next day, Charlie hid a chip in his ID badge and passed through security without the scanners detecting it. In his office, he printed all the classified files and used a skimmer on the printer to make a digital copy. That night, Charlie went to a bar and kept staring at a jukebox like it was going to give him secret spy messages. The following morning, Charlie confronted his superiors again using the printed files. He listed all of Moret's dirty missions, like bombing a Syrian hospital and striking an Allied base in Yemen, which killed thousands of civilians. He threatened to take everything to the director and revealed that he triggered a dead man's switch. If he didn't enter a code every 5 hours, the evidence would be sent to the most important news outlets. In exchange for his silence, Charlie asked for full CIA training, fake passports, cash, a gun, and intel on Sarah's killers, because nothing screams professional like bargaining with blackmail in the middle of your office. Meanwhile, Charlie arrived at a CIA training facility, where he was welcomed by Colonel Henderson. They started at the shooting range, but unfortunately, Charlie wasn't a good shooter. However, when it came to making bombs, Charlie worked outstandingly fast, impressing Henderson. Bomb-making skills, 10/10. Marksmanship, needs work. Next, Charlie needed to learn his new identity. So Henderson harassed him and threw him around so Charlie could still recite his new information even under pressure, because nothing solidifies an alias like a mild concussion. Lastly, they got the new passports done. It turned out that the chip he hid on his badge was actually a bug that he planted on the files he gave to his bosses. Moore immediately called Henderson and told him to arrest Charlie. However, he'd already escaped. After hanging up, Moore finally saw the bug on the files and talked to Charlie directly to tell him this was treason. Charlie got rid of his earpiece before boarding a plane. Once Charlie reached London, he went through customs and started making his way to Paris. His fake passport appeared in the CIA's computers, so Moore sent Henderson after him. In Paris, Charlie rented a hotel room near the restaurant where Gretchen was frequently seen. Eventually, she showed up and was close enough for him to start tracking her phone. Charlie then spent the day outside Gretchen's building and waited until she was gone. When a tenant came out, he used the chance to get inside. Then he followed an online video to pick the lock of Gretchen's place. Charlie began searching the apartment and took pictures of Gretchen's schedule. He also found a gun in a drawer, so he decided to keep it. At that moment, his tracker warned him that Gretchen was coming back, so he rushed to the stairs to wait for her. However, when she finally came home, he couldn't pull the trigger. Feeling disappointed, he rushed back to the hotel and pretended Sarah was waiting for him, because nothing soothes a spy's conscience like imaginary company. After calming down, he took a close look at the pictures and learned that Gretchen had been going to the hospital often. Hacking into her health history revealed she had allergies. The next morning, Charlie bought tons of flowers. Then he waited at the cafe until he saw Gretchen and followed her to the hospital. Charlie came in dressed as a doctor and locked Gretchen inside the machine. She started to panic, but Charlie ignored her while filling the chamber with pollen, because nothing says interrogation like a surprise allergy attack. The doctor and a nurse heard the noise, but the door was locked too. Gretchen started to get weak because of her allergies, so Charlie opened the chamber, only for Gretchen to push him against the desk. They started fighting all over the room, throwing each other against every piece of furniture. Charlie took out his gun, but Gretchen brought him down and opened the door to finally run away. A desperate Charlie followed her to the street, but before he could shoot, Gretchen was struck by a car. Charlie forced himself to come closer to grab her phone. Then he ran away. He washed off all the blood and packed his things. He went to the bus station and bought a ticket for Marseille. That night, Charlie went to a bar and drank a lot to drown the guilt he felt over Gretchen's death. He thought he saw Sarah dancing, but a closer look revealed it was a woman who looked like her. Then Charlie noticed Henderson approaching him and panicked. He pushed people until he managed to leave the bar and ran through the streets until he found a different bar to hide in. Henderson followed him there too, so Charlie rushed to the bathroom and locked the door. Unfortunately, there were no windows there, so Charlie had no choice but to come out. He joined Henderson at the bar and learned that he found him by tracking Gretchen's phone. After a short chat, Charlie revealed a timer on his phone and ran out before a bomb exploded in the bathroom. The next morning, Charlie contacted Incoline to get their help and left on a cargo plane to Turkey. In Istanbul, she already knew about his wife, so she made him hide his hat and backpack in a shopping bag. Incoline wanted him to pretend to shop for a while and meet her at a garage. During the trip, Incoline shared that she became a hacker 6 years ago after her husband died. He was a CIA asset and worked for Russian intelligence. In fact, he was the original Incoline and taught her everything. The next day, Caleb told his team to keep eyes on the terrorists to find Charlie. O'Brien met with Moore and told him she wanted him to stop running Black Ops without her authorization. Moore said her predecessor gave him the same speech, so he'd tell her the same thing he said then. She had his full support. After the meeting, O'Brien got in her car, and her assistant showed her a picture of Henderson in Spain. It was confirmed that Moore sent him, so O'Brien sent one of her own agents after him. Meanwhile, Charlie and Incoline found Mishka by hacking into a hotel's security cameras. Charlie then traveled to Madrid and stayed at the same hotel. He learned that Mishka liked swimming in the pool that connected two buildings by their roofs. At the same time, Henderson tracked Charlie down in the area. He followed Mishka to the bar, unaware of Henderson in the lobby. Charlie saw a suspicious man at the bar and realized he'd seen him before, which meant he was being followed. He told Incoline through his earpiece, so she searched his face and confirmed he was a CIA agent. She also saw Henderson on the camera and told Charlie to abort, but he wanted to stick to the plan. When Mishka went to the pool, Charlie confronted him to ask where to find Horst. If he didn't talk, the pool would be destroyed. Mishka didn't believe him and started swimming away, so Charlie pressed the button, and the glass started to crack. A desperate Mishka started swimming faster, but it was too late. The glass broke, and he fell to his death while the water flooded the street. A chase ensued, and Henderson almost caught him, but at that moment, the other agent also attacked. The man tackled Henderson, and they started fighting in the laundry room. The next day, O'Brien brought Moore to her office and asked about Charlie. Moore said he was on bereavement leave, and she let him go before revealing she'd got footage from the hotel. Meanwhile, Caleb and his team looked at the same footage and realized Charlie had help. They looked at Charlie's encrypted chats and finally found the messages from Inquiline. After a long search, they discovered the file of the dead agent known as Inquiline and guessed that his wife must have taken over. That night, Charlie and Inquiline agreed to sleep next to each other just for company. However, they were woken up by Inquiline's birds screeching, and they saw a bunch of agents approaching on the security cameras. The duo immediately ran through a hidden tunnel in the wall. The computer was already deleting all the files, so there was nothing left for them. After running down the beach, the duo got to Inquiline's car, and they were seen by the drone. Soon, the agents came after them with open fire, even following them on a boat. After a long chase, the agents managed to damage the car enough to make it stop, and Inquiline was mortally wounded. Charlie had no choice but to push the body to the other seat and take over the wheel so he could keep driving until he finally lost his pursuers. Later, he left the car in the garage and kissed Inquiline goodbye, because nothing says mission accomplished like a tearful farewell to a wounded hacker. The next day, Charlie contacted Lawrence and pretended to be an arms dealer to arrange a meeting. Then Charlie bought new electronics and traveled to Romania. In an abandoned building, he recorded his own face and hacked a security feed in Berlin. Now the CIA thought he was in Berlin and sent their people there. When Lawrence finally arrived, he found a ringing phone on a chair. Charlie told him to look inside a box, and Lawrence found a bunch of bombs. If he moved, they'd detonate? As Lawrence noticed the picture of Sarah in the box, Charlie appeared behind him asking Horst's location and promising to deactivate the bombs if he cooperated. Lawrence explained that Horst operated in Russian waters and typically received deliveries at a Baltic seaport. Charlie then asked how to contact Horst, so Lawrence said he only got messages through secret codes from his men. All the numbers and names were on his phone, which he tossed on the ground. After grabbing the phone, Charlie left and heard the bombs killing Lawrence and the other. Charlie didn't have much time to celebrate the success because he immediately began decoding the secret messages from Horst's contacts using his latest CIA-issued gadget, basically a smartphone on steroids. The codes led him to a shipping yard on the Baltic coast, a perfect place for a covert arms exchange disguised as a fish market, because nothing says undercover spy like hiding among crates of frozen cod. He rented a shabby boat and waited near the docks, scanning every shadow for signs of Horst. After a tense few hours, a figure appeared, broad-shouldered, grim-faced, and armed to the teeth. Justice served, beat style. Back at CIA headquarters, Moore and Caleb were forced to answer for their corruption and the cover-up, facing an internal investigation that was as long and tedious as it was overdue. In the quiet aftermath, Charlie returned to the garage to finish repairing the plane Sarah had gifted him, though this time, he made sure to install a few hidden gadgets. And there you have it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting and romantic movie recap. See you next time.